Gasoline prices continue to climb, with J.P. Morgan now warning we will see an average of over $6 a gallon by the end of the summer. Americans are now spending $5,000 a household a year on gasoline. The administration looking to make a deal with Venezuela to tap Venezuela's oil supply instead of ours here in the U.S. Here's a reaction from Florida Senator Marco Rubio.
Obviously, they sympathize with these people. They hated the sanctions, and they just thought that oil was a good excuse that they could get people to support them on. But this has nothing to do with oil, because Venezuela can't provide us oil. The oil that we need, we have. It's in America. They need to allow us to explore it, and they're not.
Joining me right now to talk more about that is the former U.S. Energy Secretary and the former Governor of Texas, Governor Rick Perry. Governor, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Give us your reaction to the administration now going to Venezuela rather than to our own U.S. drillers.
Well, Senator Rubio was spot on there with his remarks. I mean, the idea that we're going to a dictator in South America who hates us, who works against us, who's in bed with the folks in Cuba and the other Marxists in the Western Hemisphere is just beyond me. When we have those resources right here onshore, or whether they might be in the Gulf of Mexico, they might be in Alaska, that's where the heavy crude comes from, which is what they're processing down there. It's just beyond me. This administration clearly told us early on when he was running for office, Joe Biden said, you know, I'm going to do away with the fossil fuel industry, playing to his left. And the left is holding him to his political remarks that he made during the election. The American people, whether you voted for Joe Biden or not, you're paying the bill. And I think that's the message that people need to understand. Everything, and I mean everything, is associated to energy costs in some form or fashion. Part of the inflation that's being driven today is because of energy costs, whether it's to move produce around in the United States, whether it's the packaging, you name it. Energy has a real impact on it, and the cost of energy. So this administration needs to fess up, admit that politically they may have won an election, but the American people are going to pay the price.
Well, Governor, you make such a great point, because I think what most people really want is some honesty. And there's just such dishonesty about this. After inflation spikes to 40-year high, Biden starts blaming Vladimir Putin, and then he says, well, there are all these leases around. The oil companies are not doing it. But it's not the leases, right? It's all of the rules and regulations this administration comes out with to hamper fossil fuels.
Yeah, it's somewhat like, I guess, playing a hand of poker, if you will. There's plenty of cards to go around. Permits are easy to get. You know, they stand up in the White House and talk about, well, there's all these permits out there. Yes, there are a lot of permits out there, but that's not what the oil and gas industry understands. It's the regulations that are behind those permits. It's the regulations that the Department of Interior or this agency, or they're even talking about using the SEC for climate rules. I mean, it is nonsense to stand up and try to make the American people believe that, oh, gosh, the oil and gas industry just isn't interested in going out there and producing. Yes, they are. They're also paying attention.
Unbelievable.
And you send a message that you don't like them.
Yeah, in fact, you mentioned the Interior Department, the Interior Secretary and the current Energy Secretary were grilled on Capitol Hill this week, Thursday. Here's what they had to say about a plan when asked about gas prices skyrocketing. Watch.
Do you believe that gas prices are too high?
I think that Americans are still recovering from this terrible pandemic, and there are a lot of other world events that are making things difficult for all of us.
So it sounds you're unwilling to say that gas prices are too high.
We're doing all we can, Senator.
It is not administration policies that have affected supply and demand.
How can you say that? Why don't you answer my question? From January to August, the price of gasoline was up over 30% in my state alone. Are you telling me, Madam Secretary, are you telling me under oath that these policies had no effect?
No, they did not. Ask
That is
Vladimir
a remarkable statement. I have to say, Madam Secretary, with all due respect, your answers are insulting.
Governor, what'd you make of that exchange?
That was, I think he said it pretty right. That's insulting to the American people. Yes, gas prices are too high. Anybody knows that. I mean, the idea that you won't look the people in the face and say, look, we made a mistake, whether it's pumping, literally billions of dollars into the American economy that's driving part of this inflation, whether it's the energy policies that we put into place that basically have driven the cost of gasoline to all-time highs, and they're going higher. We're fixing to go into the summer months. It is going to be a brutal summer. So honesty, they may just can't bring themselves to say, look, we made some mistakes. Here's what we're going to do to correct them. It's hard to do, I get it. But if you care about America, if you care about Americans, if you care about their quality of life, you will do everything that you can to get the American energy industry back, headed in the direction of producing and putting that product all around the globe. Yeah. I don't even want to get into the issue of what John Kerry and his folks are doing globally. Telling people that we're going to go to net zero by 2050 is a death sentence for literally millions of people around the globe. That is nonsense. Wow. And they need to stand up and fess up.
Well, this was the first policy that Biden made when he walked into the White House, cutting Keystone, stopping drilling on federal land. It's just one of Biden's growing lists of crises. Take a look at the cover of the New York Post this week, and you are looking at a list that is growing in terms of the train wreck that is Joe Biden's policy. How would you assess this administration right now?
Well, obviously, the American people are going to assess it, and they're going to do it in November. And I think it's going to be a powerful message of, listen, you have fouled this up to monumental proportions. We're going to punish you. We're going to bring people back in that we trust will get this country back on track. So that's the real message, and that's the real assessment that's going to be occurring.
All right, Governor, we will leave it there. It's great to see you, as always. Rick Perry, thanks very much for weighing in on all of that. Very important conversation, sir. Thank you. Governor Rick Perry.